The Gospel of Gold by G.S. Lewis. Chapter 27, Vulnerability. Not much planning actually took place. As Jinichi had pointed out, none of them were strong enough trainers to contest any of their enemies in battle, unless it was a common rocket grunt. Gold briefly suggested that they infiltrate the Team Rocket ranks in disguise, but Marina rejected the notion out of hand. "We can't make Jinichi put on their uniform again," she said adamantly. "More importantly, we'd be caught. Even if our faces weren't known to half the internet crowd of Johto, there are other unfriendly eyes on the watch." Marina looked closely at Gold. "How did two of the elites manage to find you so quickly?" "I don't know how," sighed Gold. "Koga mentioned something about Will's crystal ball. I didn't see him, but I know he's the psychic elite. Maybe he has future sight. I've seen it before." Marina bit her lower lip and looked around the room. Jinichi was on his Pokegear, looking through any stories of breaking news. Alan stood sentinel at the window, his back turned. "Alan?" she asked. "I hate to intrude, but do you have anything to eat?" The ace trainer poked a thumb over his shoulder. "Help yourself. There's not much in the kitchen, but you'll find some sandwich materials and cans of soup." "But we already have—" Gold started. "Here, Gold, help me make some sandwiches," said Marina, cutting him off and pulling his arm. "Ginny, any preferences?" Gold thought he heard tuna, but he was distracted by Marina hauling him into the next room. She opened the refrigerator, still not letting go, and took out a lemon and some cans. "I'm scared, Gold," she said quietly. "Huh?" He had heard her, but the confession had come so suddenly that he wasn't prepared. "I know Pokemon trainers are supposed to be bold and all," Marina whimpered, her expression suddenly scrunched and vulnerable. "But this has gotten so much bigger than it was. When I started this journey, the worst thing I thought could happen was getting disqualified. But now, with the League and Team Rocket as partners—" Her face blanched, and Gold noticed she was shaking visibly. "I don't know what the worst is anymore. I don't want to think about it, but—" "Akrutik City was your safe refuge," Gold said, keeping his own voice low. "Why did you leave it?" Marina's face reddened slightly, and she lowered her head. Are you angry with me?" Gold's breath caught in his throat. He felt suddenly very apprehensive. "Angry? No. Remember when you asked me that?" Marina nodded. Gold grinned nervously. "Ilex Forest, you were doing the same thing then as now," he said. "Putting everything aside, including fear, to help those you care about." He felt his heart flutter slightly. "Marina, you are kind and selfless, recklessly so. I really like that about you." He swallowed, feeling himself sweating, but pressed on. "You're scared. I get that. I am too. But you acted in spite of it, left Akrutik, because you are bravest when there's something at stake. When things get hard again, you'll find your will to act." Marina looked at him with emotion and the beginning of tears, her face bright pink. "In the meantime," she blubbered, her words barely intelligible, "I think I need a hug." Again, Gold was not ready. He suddenly saw Marina, her arms open in anticipation of embrace, fully vulnerable, yet compelling beyond all resistance. He saw her then as a child, but something more as well, as if a veil had been removed from his eyes. A woman. There was no time to think. She was in his arms, wrapped in him, and he in her. For a moment, the two of them were one, sharing in, he didn't know, something that felt alien, yet familiar and wonderful. The only way he could think of it afterward was being whole, and not realizing until then that he had been missing half of himself. "Thank you, Gold," Marina whispered in his ear. A sense of self-reproach came over him as he left the kitchen. That hug was supposed to have been for Marina, to give her comfort and support in her time of need. She had become noticeably more cheerful afterward, it was true, but in that moment, he had privately thought selfish things about her that were inappropriate for friends. His father had hugged him countless times throughout his life, but with a girl, it was so much different. Her body, pressed against his, was so soft. "Stop it!" Gold clenched his teeth, livid with himself. "You're not sorry at all! Get a grip!" Junichi had moved up to the window with Alan, who was examining Gold's walking stick idly. As Gold walked in, he could hear the two of them quietly bickering. He soon learned the discussion was over whether or not the stick contained magical powers, a notion he dismissed with a laugh. Alan returned to window watching, while Junichi approached Gold. "Hey," the other boy whispered, reaching for his backpack. "Can I show you something?" Without waiting for a reply, he drew out a small red container made of clay, atop of which rested a cork stopper. Gold looked at it blankly, not understanding what he was seeing. Junichi stole a glance over his shoulder at Alan, who still wasn't looking their way. Then he tugged off the cork with a soft pop and grasped inside for the contents. When he drew out his hand, Gold could see, pinched between his fingers, a blue wrapper containing something spherical. It was about the size of a marble. "What is it?" Gold asked. "Rare candy?" "These," hissed Junichi, "are the remaining capsules of that secret potion which Proton gave me." "Oh." Gold looked up at Junichi inquisitively. "Why are you showing me them?" "I haven't used any," Junichi replied, in a voice so soft that Gold had to follow his lips. "Not since Ilex Forest. Proton was a murderous thug, so when he told me that these would kill a Pokemon with overuse, I believed it." Junichi redeposited the medicine and firmly plugged the container. His face was lined and dark. "I want you to know that I was tempted to use it in Goldenrod City. I probably would have at the gym if that earthquake hadn't driven us away. And earlier today, when we found Meganium on the ground..." Gold could see his jaw working as Junichi struggled to speak. By all appearances, he was confessing a crime. "I was thinking, what if Gold can't do it this time? What if it's like with Cyndaquil back in Violet Gym? It's stupid, I know. I mean, you just restored Marina's Croconaw a minute earlier. But I thought, I had this miracle drug in my pocket, just in case a real miracle doesn't happen. Like, even if something's not meant to be, I can force it." "Junichi." Gold held up a hand to stop him. "I'm not gonna judge you. You were the one who pulled me out of my despair when I almost didn't help Croconaw." Well, that was..." Junichi paused, and his forehead wrinkled, like he was thinking hard about the memory. "I'm not sure what came over me." His eyes refocused on Gold. "But if it helped, I was hoping you could help me with something." Yeah, of course. Gold focused his full attention on Junichi. What do you want me to do? In response, Junichi raised the container of secret potion in his palm. Take this away from me, he begged. I don't want to be tempted anymore, but I can't bring myself to toss it. Gold looked down at the medicine and back at Junichi. His expression was piteous, but Gold felt some quiet misgivings about accepting his burden. Gently, he shook his head. It isn't wrong to be tempted if you don't give in, Gold whispered to him. But we've been separated before, and we will be again. When a miracle isn't available, don't scorn first aid. Junichi stared at the potion in his hands, and Gold watched the fingers tense and relax on its surface. I don't plan to ever put my Pokemon in danger of mortal injury again, he vowed. Nobody ever plans for it to happen, replied Gold. Speaking of plans, Marina interjected, appearing from the kitchen with a tray of assorted sandwiches. What did you come up with while I was away?